What up? Welcome back to some more downrange gaming, son. And check it out, it's Monday, and I told you guys I'd give you a new video every Monday, so here you go. And now you know, so make sure you come back next Monday for another new downrange game video. And last week I asked you guys in the comments what games you want to see me play, and I got a big response. You guys, oh, check this out. Yeah, that chicken had to take a little nap. But I asked you guys last week if I should play a different game, and a lot of you guys were saying I need to play Skyrim. So I went to GameStop today, picked it off the shelf, and then I took an arrow to the knee. So I put it back, and I didn't get it. So you're stuck with Call of Duty this week. Stop. Anyways, this gameplay was pretty epic. I haven't played in about a week, and I came out just whooping some ass. And I know that's not what you really came here for. You came here for the military stories. And last week I left off with graduating tech school, police academy, and going to my first base. And I think I was talking about my first day at work as a cop on Air Force Base, which was at Barksdale, Louisiana. And I wasn't too excited about the base in Barksdale. But, so I was on my first day of work, and like when you're a new troop on the flight, a flight meaning like the group of guys you post, you know, each night with or a day with or whatever, your shift. When you're the new troop, they like to pick on you, you know, because you don't know anything, you know. You'll pretty much do whatever anybody tells you to do higher up than you. So you're like, so they used to do this thing called jeeping. Jeeping, I forget what the acronym means to jeep somebody, but it's like basically to pick on them. And they had like these two troops. They never jeeped me though. I was kind of smart and I never fall for stuff. But they jeeped these two troops one night. They gave them like trash bags. We're working the midnight shift, so we're working from like 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. out on the flight line, you know, protecting the flight line where all the aircrafts are at. And they give these troops two trash bags, and they tell them to go out and get air samples on the flight line. So they send them out there, and they're all. I was in the law enforcement desk, so I could watch on the cameras as they're jeeping these troops, and they're like taking these trash bags and they're like filling them with air and tying them in knots. And they brought these two trash bags full of air to the, you know, to the law enforcement desk, and we're watching them on the camera, and we're just laughing at them. And I mean, that's the type of stuff they do. What else? What other Jeep jokes did they do? Oh yeah, this wasn't like very clever. It was just more mean than anything. But they snatched up this new troop. They handcuffed him to like a raised arm bar. I don't know how I can explain it. Like, you know, if you're at a gate, you know, if you're like at a parking garage and one of those arms that raise up so your car can go out and then it lowers back down. Well, we had one of those on the gate, like a big metal one that was electronically controlled. So they handcuffed this guy to it, this troop, and they start raising the arm, and you know, and he's got to hold on, and he's like lifted up in the air, and then they raise him down and handcuffed him. But I mean, it was just a lot of hazing in the military. Like, you know, people talk about getting bullied in high school and stuff. In the military, it's like really bad. It's almost like not a good thing. Like, troops get really stressed out about it. And for instance, this one troop, he wasn't on my flight. I just heard about it. He was on a different flight. He got hazed so bad. He was a new troop, so they were jeeping him like every day. He got hazed so bad, he packed all his stuff up like in his dorm room, left just his uniform and his boots, and left a note, said, look, I was being hazed so bad. So he went AWOL in the military from being hazed and just left and went home. You know, like, you can go to jail for that, for going AWOL in the military. But I mean, like, something had to be done. So like, it came down from the higher ups, like, hey, you guys need to chill with the hazing. You know, it's really starting to affect the troops, but you know, there's no stopping it. And if you didn't know what AWOL means, it stands for absent without leave. Now, I'm sure I'm going to remember a lot more hazing and jeeping jokes that they pulled out there. I just can't remember it this time. So I'm going to talk about like what we used to arm up with before work every day. Now, like, if you worked on the law enforcement side, you would carry a 9mm Beretta. I forget how many magazines we carried with that weapon. Man, I can't believe I can't remember. That was like, you had to know everything verbatim. Like, you need to memorize everything. Like, if somebody came up to you higher up and they asked you something about your post or your weapon, you need to fire off the answers. And it's weird that I just dumped all that knowledge. But you would, on the law enforcement side, you'd arm up with a 9mm Beretta. And they gave us hollow tip rounds out there in Louisiana, which was kind of crazy. But that was rare to get law enforcement being a new troop, because that was like kind of like being a privilege to be like a real street cop. So when you're a new troop, you're pretty much on a flight line or in this other area that I can't really talk about, because I know a lot of stuff I talk about is kind of top secret stuff that I can't really talk on the internet, so I'll talk around things. So and another weapon we carry when I first came in was the M16A2, and we'd carry about, I believe it was 120 rounds at this base with loaded 4-to-1 ratio. Here, I'm gonna try and spit off like some of the stuff we had to remember. Let's see, if I had to report my weapon to my higher up, I'd be like, I'm armed with an M16A2 assault rifle. It's lightweight, air-cooled, gas-separated, magazine-fed, shoulder weapon with 120 rounds of ball, tracer ammunition loaded in a 4-to-1 ratio. I can't believe I just channeled that. And sometimes I would carry the M203, and a lot of people that play Call of Duty knows the 203, the grenade launcher that goes on the bottom of a lot of these assault rifles in the game. And we carry 30 rounds of high explosive rounds on like a vest. We had to wear a vest. They were all loaded into them. But like, say you got shot in the vest and one of the rounds got penetrated, it wouldn't explode, because in the M203 round has to travel like a certain amount of distance before it arms, because it spins and that what arms it. So if you ever like shot one, it wouldn't blow up. But speaking of that, here's a crazy story that happened in Barksdale. I was working this post, and I wasn't carrying a 203 that day. Somebody else was, and some Air Force guy comes up to me. Like, he's not a cop. He's just, I think he worked, I don't know what he did, maintenance or something. But he walks up and he has a flattened 203 round. Like, somebody like dropped a 203 round and somebody drove over it. And it was flattened. And he walks up and hands it to me. Like, look, I just found this. I don't know what it is. And I'm like, yo, like, I'm freaking out at this. Like, I know that it can't arm and explode, but it's still kind of scary. And I'm like, yo, that's a 203 round. And I'm like, yo, put that thing down. And we all like backed away. But this guy like just picks it up and hands it to me. I'm like, so we had to call EOD. They had to come out and make sure everything was safe. Now, I remember last week I told you guys a quick thing about some dude's nutsack hanging out of his uniform or something. So I'm going to tell you that story. And this guy, this troop, his name was Fisher. He was one of the weirdest people I think I've ever met in my life. He was just over the top weird. He's the first time I ever seen somebody like light a fart on fire. Like, I didn't know you could light farts on fire, and he did. I was like, holy cow, that actually works. But this is the type of person he was. And he liked to pull pranks and jokes and stuff. So I came real friendly with him. But he liked to do this joke. Like, he'd pull his balls. Like, if you ever had like a uniform, a military uniform, or have seen one, it's like, you know, like a fly is, it's just a couple buttons. You can just open like 2 buttons and you could pull your nutsack out of it. And I guess he shaved his nutsack. I don't know. I didn't want to look at it, but it was so funny and I happened to see it. But this is what he would do. He would pull his nutsack out of the fly, and you know, when you have your Air Force uniform on, the shirt part comes down a little bit, so it kind of covers it. So if you would like lift your arms up over your head, it would come up, and you would see his nutsack hanging out. He would pull it out. He would have his nut. It looked like a piece of gum stuck to his pants. That's what he'd say. Like, oh, it's gum. Like, that's what he would walk up to people and be like, hey, look, I got gum on my, and it's like his nutsack, and there was this other girl that people used to haze. I don't know. She was kind of manly, and they used to haze her. I never did. I thought it was mean, like, because I felt sorry for her. But the dude Fisher would come up to her and be talking to her, like having a conversation, and his nuts would be out the whole time. She would never notice, and we'd all be like, "Oh my God, he's such an idiot." I'm surprised he never got in trouble for that. But anyway, that comes up on the end of the video. Check that out. 18-4. That was a pretty good game. So thank you guys for listening to my crazy stories about nutsacks, and make sure you give a thumbs up and favorite the video. Definitely if you want to hear more stories. And I'm just getting started on my base at Barksdale. I got a lot more crazy stories. So like I said, make sure you thumbs up, favorite, and thanks for watching. Peace, son.